What's up, everyone? Welcome to Power Play with CJ. I just want to focus in on the consistency of the great teams in the NHL. Last year, the last four teams standing, the four conference finalists were the Boston Bruins, Chicago Blackhawks, Pittsburgh Penguins, and Los Angeles Kings. And all four of those teams are at the very least tied in their second round series. The Bruins and Chicago are tied 2-2 with the Wild in Montreal. And then the Kings are up 2-1, and the Pittsburgh Penguins are up 3-2. So, they realistically could be the top four teams from last year again this year, and that's just the way it goes. I mean, you look at the common threads among the teams. They all kind of got there differently. They all kind of sucked at the beginning of the post-lockout NHL. I mean, you look at Pittsburgh, by the grace of God, or whatever, winning the draft lottery, getting Sidney Crosby, then obviously getting Malkin before that, Stahl, Fleury, those guys, and being able to move assets around the table and have an amazing team. You look at Chicago getting Taves and Patrick Kane. You look at the LA Kings drafting well, getting themselves Ante Kopitar, Dustin Brown, Jonathan Quick. Later in one of the drafts, and you look at in the 2005 draft, and you look at just the way these teams have been assembled, and the Bruins being awful, but still being able to draft Phil Kessel, turn him into Tyler Seguin and Dougie Hamilton, turn Seguin into Erickson, Frazier, and Riley Smith, all of whom have come up big on the playoffs for the Bruins. The front office staff has been amazing for all four teams. Dean Lombardi's great, Ray Sherrill in Pittsburgh, Stan Bowman in Chicago, and obviously Peter Strellig with the Boston Bruins. And free agents are willing to take less money to go there. They're able to attract big name marquee free agents. You're looking at the Marion Hoses and the Jerome McGinley, guys like that, and shrewd trades have been made. I think you look at all the NHL wants parity, but the bottom line is some teams are run like hell. You look at the Toronto Maple Leafs; they have all the money in the world. I mean, obviously, they're the most profitable entity in the NHL, but they can spend to the salary cap, and that's it. But unlike some teams, they can go all the way to the cap. They get the money for it, and they do an awful job. I mean, they really could have had Phil Kessel for a 1, a 2, and a 3. It would have cost them Tyler Seguin, Jared Knight, and a third-round pick, which I'm just going off what the two Toronto picks were. Instead, they gave up 2 1s and a 2 for Kessel, because Brian Burke didn't want to break the gentleman's rule and offer sheet him. Well, you know what? That gentleman's rule went out the window. Yeah, you got to do what you got to do to have a capable team. And you could have had Kessel, Dougie Hamilton, and whoever. And you would have had some more flexibility. You would have had Dougie Hamilton and Morgan Riley as a young defensive tandem going forward. That maybe there's some issues now with that tandem, but down the line that'd be a very fearsome twosome. And you're just looking at the New York Rangers. All the money in the world on free agents. Brad Richards. Let's give him everything. Before that, Scott Gomez, Chris Drury, Wade Redden. Before that, Bobby Olik, Theo Fleury. I can sit here all day and rattle off New York Rangers free agent busts, but they screwed up too. And these four teams now realistically could be a couple upsets. And the other teams in it have all been for the most part playoff regulars since the lockout as well. The Rangers have missed the playoffs I think once since the lockout. The Anaheim Ducks have been in the playoffs consistently. They've won the Cup in 2007. Obviously, I'm just talking about the post-lockout NHL. Minnesota kind of came on the scene late, but they splurged big. They got themselves Suter and Parisi, and they signed. They drafted well and they traded. They made a couple of shrewd trades. You're looking at Charlie Coyle and Niederreiter, guys like that. And that's how these teams are able to be successful on a consistent basis. And and the Montreal Canadiens, same thing. They've been a playoff mainstay. They've drafted well. Pierre McGuire thought they were stupid when they drafted Carey Price. Well, how does that feel, Pierre? 9 years later, Carey Price is an upper echelon NHL goalie. And all these teams have had bumps in the road in drafts and in free agency. I don't think it was David Fisher. I don't think Montreal Canadiens fans will bring his name up anytime soon. Likewise, I think the Boston Bruins have long forgotten about Zach Hamill, and you can go all day on what they've done wrong, but the bottom line is the 8 teams left, particularly the 4 teams from last year that were in the conference finals, are there because of good coaching, good front office staff, and good players to buy into their respective systems. If the NHL wants to try to level the playing field as much as they can, the bottom line is you can't cure stupid, and so many teams don't know what they're doing, and obviously some teams are snake bitten with injuries and stuff like that, but bottom line is these teams are going to be playoff regulars for a long time, and they're going to be playing for Stanley Cups for the foreseeable future. And the other thing is, they know how to be shrewd in the salary cap. I mean, Pittsburgh Penguins won the Jordan Staal trade going away. Let's call it what it is. Anyway, that's all I got in this episode of the Power Play with CJ on the four teams, or the consistency among last year's conference finalists. Stay tuned for more episodes throughout the playoffs and beyond. Later, guys.